Before we start, if you enjoy the story, please leave a like and check if you're subscribed. The iron bars rattled against Jackson Vale's spine as the cargo hauler lurched through another docking sequence. His head pounded in rhythm with the hydraulic hisses, and the acrid smell of unwashed bodies pressed against him from all sides. He kept his eyes closed, cataloging damage. 3 cracked ribs, possibly 4. Dislocated shoulder wrenched back into place. The neural suppressor clamped around his neck hummed against his skin. The ambush replayed behind his eyelids in fragments. The warehouse on Threshold Station, his team extracting the corporate defector, then doors blowing inward, flashbangs, and arms grabbing him from behind while his people scattered. Fresh meat's awake, someone muttered in Galactic Standard. Jackson opened his eyes. The cage held maybe 20 captives, most humanoid enough. One had 6 arms and compound eyes. Another was reptilian, scales catching green and gold. "Where are we?" Jackson asked. The 6-armed one clicked its mandibles. "The pits. Human. Outer Reach Station. Your arena stock now." The words settled into Jackson's chest like ice. He'd heard stories about the illegal gladiatorial rings beyond collective jurisdiction. Blood sport with no survivors. "How long do we last?" "Depends on who you face," the reptilian one said, voice surprisingly soft. "Most of us? 1 fight, maybe 2. And if I win, you won't. Nobody beats the champion. She's been undefeated for 3 months. 17 kills. What is she?" Silence answered him. The other captives exchanged glances. "Nobody knows," the reptilian finally said. "Vorath calls her the Red Death. Never seen anything like her. The last fighter lasted 90 seconds before she tore his throat out." The hauler shuddered through final docking. The cargo door split open, flooding the hold with harsh white light and noise. Crowds roaring, music pounding. Slavers in mismatched armor yanked the cage door open, shock prods crackling blue. They descended into the arena complex through ramps spiraling downward. The noise faded, replaced by steady condensation drips and distant crowd thunder. Jackson ended up alone in a cell carved into bare metal walls. Time became fluid. He slept when exhaustion took him, woke when guards delivered protein paste. Overhead, crowds roared. Sometimes screams punctured the noise. He was doing push-ups when the cell door opened. "You fight," a guard said. "Now." They removed the neural suppressor and handed him his combat pants and boots. Nothing else. The guards marched him through corridors that grew brighter. The crowd's roar built to physical pressure against his eardrums. The gate groaned as it rose. Light spilled through, blinding after the dim corridors. Jackson stepped onto sand that couldn't hide dark stains underneath. The arena was maybe 50 meters across. Tiered seating rose on all sides, packed with spectators. Holographic displays floated above, showing odds in languages he couldn't read. Vorath's box dominated the north side, where a bulky alien with gray-blue skin and too many eyes watched with detached interest. The crowd's roar shifted pitch. Jackson looked across the arena. The opposite gate was rising. She stepped through into the light, and every tactical assessment in Jackson's head stuttered. Red skin that caught the light like polished stone. Crimson hair pulled back from a face both alien and striking. Black horns curved from her temples, scored with marks that might have been tallies. Her armor covered the essentials in segmented red and black plates that followed her body's lines with organic precision. Her eyes swept across the arena, found him, and went utterly still. Recognition flashed through them, not of him specifically, but of what he was, another Deathworlder. She moved like water finding its level, each step controlled and deliberate. Her hands flexed at her sides, fingers tipped with nails that looked too sharp to be decorative. She stopped 10 meters away, close enough to see the scars on her skin, dry blood on her armor. "You're human," she said, voice accented with something he couldn't place. Yeah, I've never fought a human. First time for everything. Something that might have been amusement flickered across her face. Then the fight klaxon blared, and she came at him like a red storm. Jackson dropped into guard position on instinct. She closed the distance in 3 strides. Her first strike came high. He ducked under it and felt air displacement where his head had been. His counter drove toward her ribs. She twisted, and his knuckles scraped armor instead of flesh. They separated, circling. The crowd roared louder. She feinted left and came right. Jackson caught her wrist, used her momentum to throw her past him. She rolled, came up in a crouch, and swept his legs. He jumped the sweep and drove a knee toward her face. She caught it with both hands, muscles flexing as she stopped his momentum cold. They were frozen for a heartbeat, strength against strength. Her eyes met his from inches away, sweat beaded on both their faces. She shoved him back and they broke apart. The fight settled into rhythm. Strike and counter, block and evade. They traded positions across the sand, neither gaining decisive advantage. She favored her right side. Her horns weren't decoration. She'd tried to gore him twice. She was stronger pound for pound, but he had reach advantage. His fist caught her jaw and snapped her head sideways. Blood flew from her lip. Her return strike cracked across his ribs and drove air from his lungs. They circled again, both breathing hard now. The crowd's noise had changed pitch, confusion bleeding into excitement. This wasn't supposed to last this long. She came at him again, and this time there was something different in her eyes. Not killing intent, calculation. She was studying him the way he was studying her. Their next exchange was faster, more brutal. His elbow cracked against her cheek. Her knee drove into his thigh, nearly buckling his leg. Blood ran into his eyes from a cut he hadn't felt opening. Her armor had splits where his strikes landed, revealing more red sin underneath. Jackson caught her in a clinch, arms wrapping around her shoulders. Her hands locked onto his waist. Neither could break free without giving up position. They stood in the center, muscles trembling with effort, breathing each other's air. "You're good," she said, quiet enough that only he could hear. "So are you. One of us has to die." "Yeah." Her eyes searched his face. This close he could see flecks of darker red in her irises, could feel heat radiating off her skin, could smell her, something like copper and cinnamon. "I don't want to kill you," she said. Feelings mutual. They held each other's gaze. Understanding passed between them, silent and absolute. They were the same. Both predators in a cage, both from worlds that bred killers, both alone in a galaxy that feared what they were. The moment stretched, then broke. They separated one final time, putting distance between them. Jackson's body coiled to strike. Her hands came up into fighting position. The crowd screamed for blood. Jackson shifted his weight forward. She tensed to meet him. Voreth's voice boomed across the arena through speakers that made the sand vibrate. "Stop!" They froze. Confusion rippled through the crowd. The crime lord rose from his throne, 4 eyes focused on the arena while 2 scanned the crowd's reaction. "Magnificent," Vorath said. "Truly magnificent. I have never seen such a match." The champion meets her equal at last. He stepped to the edge of his box, massive hands gripping the railing. "I have a proposition for you both. Kill each other now, and you die for the amusement of this crowd. Or you work together. One final exhibition match. You two against champions from 3 other arenas. Survive that, and I grant you both freedom. You walk out of here with credits and passage to anywhere in the outer reach." Silence fell over the arena. Jackson kept his eyes on her. Her expression hadn't changed, but he saw her jaw tighten. "What do you say, human? Red Death? Do we have an accord?" Jackson looked at her. She looked back. A dozen unspoken questions passed between them in that glance. "When?" she called up to Voreth. 3 days. Time enough for you both to heal. Time enough for me to arrange proper opposition. Time enough for the galaxy to hear about the match that will determine your fate. 3 days. Together." Jackson's mind raced through implications. Her eyes narrowed slightly, probably doing the same calculations. Yeah, Jackson said. We'll do it. She nodded slowly. Agreed. The crowd exploded into noise. Guards moved in from the gates, shock prods crackling. Take them to holding cell 7, Voreth commanded. Together, they'll need to learn to work as a team. The guards surrounded them, weapons trained but not striking. Jackson and the woman moved toward the gate, walking side by side across sand stained with their blood. Neither spoke. The fight was over, but something else had begun. The gate closed behind them with the finality of a cell door slamming shut. The holding cell was twice the size of the one Jackson had occupied alone, which meant they could both lie down without touching. Barely. A single overhead light cast harsh shadows. The door sealed behind them with a magnetic clunk. Jackson moved to the far wall and slid down it. His ribs screamed protest. Across the cell, she remained standing near the door, weight balanced like she expected another fight. Minutes stretched into an hour. You have training, she said finally. Jackson opened his eyes. She'd moved to the opposite wall, sitting now. Her armor had retracted in places, revealing skin marked with scars. Military, then private contract work, mercenary. Yeah, she nodded, fingers tracing marks on her horns. Up close, he could see they were tallies. 17 lines carved into black surface. Your kills, he said. So I don't forget what I've become. Silence settled. She watched him shift, trying to ease his shoulder. I can help, if you trust me. She crossed the cell and crouched beside him, fingers probing the joint. Her skin was warm, almost hot. She gripped his arm. This will hurt. She pulled and twisted. Something popped, and pain shot through before fading. Better, thanks. Guards arrived with food. They ate in silence. I'm Jackson, he said when he finished. Sariva, you gonna tell me what you are? My people don't have a name your kind would recognize. We're from the Outer Veil, a Deathworld your collective never found. Earth's the same. We keep quiet until we're established enough. Sariva's expression darkened. My people scattered after the purges. Some species decided Deathworlders were too dangerous to exist. I thought I was the only one left out here. How'd you end up in the arena? Pirates raided my station. I fought back. Voreth bought me. The match is rigged, Jackson said. Her head snapped up. What? Voreth's offer. You believe it? No. He's a crime lord, so we play along and look for an opening. Even if we escape, where do we go? My ship might still be impounded here. Sariva stopped pacing. We survive first, then figure out the rest. She sat closer now. We should train. 3 days isn't much, but it's something. Tomorrow. Tonight we heal. Morning arrived with brighter lights. They started slow, feeling out reach and timing. The cramped cell forced them close. Her style was aggressive, overwhelming. His was measured, tactical. You think too much, she said. You don't think enough. Her laugh was sharp. Maybe we balance each other. They continued, building combinations. She'd come in hard, drawing attention. He'd follow with precise strikes to openings she created. After an hour, sweat made her skin gleam. Again, they ran sequences until guards brought food. Sariva taught him how to use her horns as anchor points. Jackson showed her leverage techniques against stronger opponents. The arena isn't just fighting, she said during a break. It's performance. Voreth wants spectacle. Then we give him spectacle and use it to escape. She studied him. Better odds alone. Because you're the first person out here who understands, he said. Always hiding. Always pretending. Always alone. Something shifted in her expression. Yes. Always alone. They trained until exhaustion forced them to stop. The second night passed easier. They talked in fragments, sharing pieces of themselves. She told him about her colony's traditions. He told her about Earth's expansion, friends lost across stations. Day 3 arrived too quickly. They ran combinations until muscle memory took over. Late afternoon, Sariva sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. After this, if we survive. What then? We get to my ship. We run. Where? Where do you want to go? Home, Sariva. My people are out there somewhere. Then we find them. You'd help me? Yeah. Because she was the first person who looked at him and saw exactly what he was without flinching. Because fighting beside her felt right. Because we're stronger together, he said. Her hand found his, between them, fingers lacing. Her skin was hot against his palm. Together then, the cell door opened. Guards stood outside. Time to go. The match starts in 1 hour. They walked into the corridor side by side. The crowd's distant roar echoed through the station. The prep area had weapon racks. Jackson selected a short blade and stun baton. Sariva took nothing. You sure? I'm the weapon. The gate began to rise. Jackson looked at Sariva. Ready? No. But let's go anyway. They stepped through together, and the crowd's roar hit them like a wave. Across the sand, 3 other gates opened. From each emerged fighters, killers, who'd earned their place. Forath's voice boomed. 4 teams enter. 1 team leaves. Begin. The gates sealed. 8 fighters stood in the arena. The klaxon blared, and chaos erupted. The nearest team moved first. 2 massive reptilian creatures with scales like armor plating and tails ending in bone spikes. They charged straight at Jackson and Sariva. Jackson went low, blade flashing toward exposed tendons. Sariva went high, horns driving into the first one's throat. It went down gurgling. The second swung its tail. Jackson rolled under while Sariva vaulted over, landing on its back. Her hands found its skull and twisted. The crack echoed across the arena. 2 down in 15 seconds. The crowd's roar intensified. The second team circled them, insectoid creatures with 4 arms each, wielding bladed weapons in every hand. They chittered to each other, flanking. Split them, Sariva said. She broke left. Jackson went right. His opponent came at him in a whirlwind of blades. He deflected 2, took a shallow cut across his ribs, and drove his stun baton into the creature's thorax. It convulsed and collapsed. Sariva had her opponent on the ground, fists hammering into its carapace until it stopped moving. 4 down. The third team stood in the center, humanoid figures in powder armor, carrying plasma rifles that glowed with ready charges. Cover, Jackson said. They dove behind fallen bodies as plasma bolts scorched the sand where they'd been standing. Another volley obliterated their cover, superheating scales until they burst. Jackson grabbed Sariva's hand and pulled her into a sprint. They zigzagged while plasma fire tracked them. A bolt caught Jackson's shoulder, spinning him around. Pain seared through him, but he kept moving. The weapons racks, Sariva shouted. Jackson grabbed a discarded shield while Sariva seized a spear. The armored fighters advanced, firing in measured bursts. On 3, I draw fire. You throw. That's suicide. You have a better plan? She didn't. 3. Jackson stepped out, shield raised. Plasma bolts hammered into it, metal glowing white-hot. The heat blistered his hands. Sariva's arm blurred. The spear crossed the arena and buried itself in the male fighter's chest. He collapsed. The female fighter turned her weapon on Sariva. Jackson threw the molten shield. It hit her mid-torso, and she screamed as superheated metal burned through armor. She fell. 6 down. Silence fell. Then the crowd erupted. Jackson and Sariva stood among the bodies, both bleeding, both breathing hard. Vorath's voice boomed. Magnificent. But the match isn't over. The remaining gates opened. Automated defense drones floated in, 6 of them, weapons bristling. Red targeting lasers swept across the sand. He's killing us, Sariva said. The drones opened fire. They ran. Laser fire carved lines across the arena. Jackson felt one graze his leg. He stumbled. Sariva caught him, half carrying him behind a weapons rack that disintegrated under sustained fire. "We can't win this," she said. Jackson looked up at Vorof's box. The crime lord sat there watching. Holographic controls floated in front of him, probably for the drones. "We don't fight the drones. We go for Voreth. That's 40 meters straight up. So we make a ladder." He grabbed bodies, stacking them against the wall. Sariva understood immediately, adding to the pile. Drones tracked them but held fire. Vorath probably wanted to see what they'd attempt. They climbed. Bodies shifted under their weight, slick with blood. 20 meters. 30. The drones circled below. Vorath stood at his railing, eyes wide. "Guards! Stop them!" Too late. Sariva reached the box first, vaulting over the railing. Guards rushed forward. She caught the first one's throat and threw him over the edge. Jackson pulled himself up. He moved toward Vorath while Sariva handled the remaining guards. The crime lord backed away, reaching for a weapon. Jackson's blade found his hand first, pinning it to the control console. Vorath screamed. The codes to shut down the drones. "Now! You'll never escape!" Jackson twisted the blade. Vorath screamed and entered commands with his free hand. Below, the drones powered down and dropped. "Ship access codes. My vessel. Now. Docking Bay 7. Authorization Vorath 997. Sariva appeared beside Jackson, blood splattered across her armor. "We should kill him," she said. "Yeah, but killing Vorath would make them targets for every syndicate in the Outer Reach. Leaving him alive might buy them time." Jackson pulled his blade free and drove his fist into Vorath's face. The crime lord collapsed, unconscious. "Let's move." They ran through corridors that erupted into chaos behind them. Alarms blared, guards poured from barracks, but they were already gone, navigating maintenance passages. She moved with confidence, having mapped the complex during her imprisonment. She felt the sense of her face came from resistance. They reached Docking Bay 7. Security was light. Most guards had been pulled to the arena. Jackson accessed the terminal with Vorath's codes. They worked. His ship sat there, battered but intact. A small courier vessel, fast and armed. They ran up the ramp. Jackson hit the cockpit while Sariva sealed hatches. "Strap in," he said. She slid into the co-pilot seat. Her hands found weapons controls, fingers dancing across systems she'd never seen but somehow understood. The engines fired. Station security locked onto them, trying to activate docking clamps. Jackson overrode them and punched the throttle. The ship tore free and blasted through the bay's atmospheric shield. Plasma fire tracked them from defense platforms. Sariva returned fire, her shots precise. 2 platforms exploded. The rest lost targeting lock as Jackson pushed into evasive maneuvers. They cleared the station's gravity well. More ships launched behind them. Jackson plotted a jump, fingers moving across navigation controls. Jump calculated. Hold on. The FTL drive engaged. Reality twisted, stretched, and snapped. The station disappeared, replaced by the swirling madness of faster-than-light travel. Jackson killed the alarms. Silence filled the cockpit, broken only by their breathing. He looked at Sariva. She looked back. Both covered in blood and burns, exhausted, but alive. "We did it," she said. "Yeah." She started laughing. Not hysteria, genuine amusement at the insanity of what they'd just accomplished. Jackson found himself joining her, tension bleeding out. The laughter faded. They sat in the quiet cockpit, watching the jump tunnel through the viewport. "Where to?" he asked. She gave him coordinates. He plotted them without question. The jump would take hours. They both needed medical attention, rest. But for now, they just sat there, shoulders touching, watching stars streak past. Sariva's hand found his again. He laced fingers with hers. "Together," she said quietly. "Together." But something else had changed in that arena, in that cell across those 3 days. Two Deathworlders who'd been alone had found each other. Whatever came next, they'd face it as one. The ship's medical bay was cramped, designed for one person, maybe two if they didn't mind proximity. Jackson and Sariva didn't have a choice. Sariva sat on the edge of the medical bed while Jackson pulled supplies from storage. Burn gel, synthetic skin patches, antibiotics, pain blockers. "Let me see," he said. Her armor had retracted fully, leaving her in a form-fitting black undersuit that showed every injury. Burns from plasma fire, cuts from bladed weapons, bruises darkening her red skin to deep crimson. He started with the burns on her shoulder, fingers gentle as he applied gel. She watched him work, face unreadable. "Your turn," she said when he finished. He peeled off what remained of his shirt. The plasma bullet to his shoulder had burned through muscle. The laser graze on his leg had cauterized but still needed treatment. Sariva's hands were steady as she worked. She applied burn gel with precision, fingers tracing the edges of his injuries with unexpected care. When she reached the wound on his ribs, her touch lingered. "This is deep," she said. "I've had worse. You've lived a violent life. So have you." "Yes, but I didn't choose it. The arena chose for me. You think I chose this?" Her hands paused. "Didn't you? You said mercenary. That's a choice." Jackson thought about that. Had it been a choice? Earth's expansion needed people willing to do the dirty work. He'd volunteered because someone had to. Maybe. But it's the only choice that made sense. She nodded slowly, understanding in her eyes. They'd both done what survival demanded. The pain blockers kicked in, dulling the worst injuries to manageable aches. Sariva stood and moved to the small sink, washing blood from her hands and arms. Jackson watched water run over her skin, following the curves of muscle and scar tissue. She caught him looking in the mirror's reflection. "What?" she asked. "Nothing, liar." The corner of her mouth curved. She turned to face him, leaning against the sink. The lights cast shadows across her face, highlighting the sharp angles of her cheekbones and the curve of her horns. "We should rest," she said. Yeah, neither moved. The ship hummed around them, FTL drive singing its steady song. They were alone in a way they hadn't been since this started. No cells, no guards, no crowds, just two people in a small space. Sariva crossed the distance between them. She stopped close enough that he could feel the heat radiating from her skin. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for not leaving me there. I wasn't going to leave you. You could have. Easier to escape alone. I told you why I didn't. Because we're stronger together." Yeah. She raised one hand and touched his face, fingers tracing the line of his jaw. Her skin was hot against his. "Is this just adrenaline?" she asked. "Just the relief of surviving?" Jackson covered her hand with his. "Does it matter?" He kissed her. Cut off the words and the doubt. Her lips were soft against his, and she made a sound low in her throat that shot straight through him. She kissed back harder, hands sliding into his hair, pulling him closer. He wrapped his arms around her waist, feeling the flex of muscle beneath skin, the heat of her body pressed against his. 3 days of tension and proximity finally finding release. They broke apart, both breathing hard. "The sleeping quarters," she said. They moved through the narrow corridor. The sleeping area was barely larger than their cell. One bed built into the wall, a V-port showing the swirling colors of FTL travel. Sariva pulled him down onto the bed, and they came together with an urgency born of violence survived and loneliness ended. Hands explored territory mapped during fights, but now discovering different meanings. His fingers traced the scars on her back while her nails dragged lines down his chest. They learned each other's rhythms the way they'd learned combat patterns, through instinct and adjustment, and paying attention to response. She was strong enough to hurt him if she forgot herself, and he was careful with the burns still healing on her skin. Afterwards, they lay tangled together, her head on his chest, his arm wrapped around her shoulders. The V-port showed stars that weren't stars. Tell me about Earth, she said quietly. So he told her about blue skies and oceans that stretched to the horizon, about cities that climbed into clouds and deserts that went on forever, about humanity's careful dance, appearing weak while building strength. It sounds beautiful, she said. It is. You'd like it. Will I see it? If you want to. She was quiet, fingers tracing patterns on his chest. My world was beautiful too. Red skies at dawn, 3 moons that made the nights bright enough to hunt by. Her voice carried weight. I was young when I left. Thought I'd find adventure in the stars. Instead, I found that the galaxy fears what it doesn't understand. Jackson tightened his arm around her. You're not alone anymore. No, neither are you. They stayed like that while the ship carried them toward whatever came next. Eventually, exhaustion dragged them under, and they slept without nightmares. Jackson woke to alarms blaring. He was moving before he was fully conscious, rolling out of bed. Sariva was already up, balanced on the balls of her feet. What is it? She asked. He checked the console built into the wall. His blood went cold. We're being tracked. 3 ships just dropped out of FTL behind us. For Earth's people or bounty hunters? Does it matter? They ran for the cockpit. Jackson slid into the pilot's seat while Sariva took weapons. The tactical display showed 3 ships in pursuit, fast attack craft, military surplus. They were gaining. How long until we reach the coordinates? Sariva asked. 2 hours at current speed. They'll catch us in 1. Jackson's hands moved across controls. The ship shuddered as weapons fire splashed against their shields. Not enough to break through yet, but sustained fire would eventually wear them down. Can you get us clear? Sariva asked. Not all 3. Maybe if we drop one, then let's drop one. She was already targeting, fingers dancing across weapon systems. Return fire lanced out from their ship, precise and calculated. One of the pursuing craft broke formation. The other 2 spread wider, coming at them from different angles. This was going to get messy. The lead ship opened fire with everything it had. Jackson threw the courier into a spin, engines screaming as they corkscrewed through the void. Weapons fire traced lines of superheated plasma past the viewport. Shields at 60%, Sariva said. Target their engines. Don't let them get a sustain lock. Her hands moved across controls. Their weapons blazed, catching the nearest pursuer along its port side. The ship's shields flared and buckled. It fell back, venting atmosphere. 1 down. 2 to go. The remaining ships adjusted tactics, flanking wide to catch them in crossfire. Smart, professional. We can't outrun them, Sariva said. No, but we can outlast them. Jackson pulled the ship into a hard dive, pushing engines past recommended limits. The hull groaned, warning lights flickered across every console. Now, he said, Sariva fired. Not at the ships, but at the space between them. A spread of micromines. The pursuing craft didn't see them until too late. One hit the field and detonated in a brilliant flash. The other veered hard, breaking formation. Shields at 30%, Sariva reported. The last ship was coming around for another pass. Jackson killed the engines entirely. Their courier went dark, momentum carrying them forward. The pursuing craft shot past, searching for a target that had disappeared. 3 seconds, Jackson said. He counted in his head. When he hit 0, he fired engines at full burn, and Sariva unleashed everything they had at point-blank range. The pursuer's shields collapsed. Their shots tore through hull plating. The ship broke apart in silence. Jackson exhaled slowly and reset their course. How long now? Sariva asked. 90 minutes. They flew in silence, both watching scanners. The void remained empty. There, Sariva said, pointing at the navigation display. A cluster of asteroids appeared on long-range scans. Large enough to hide a colony. Remote enough that most ships would never visit. Jackson adjusted course, threading the courier between tumbling rocks and ice chunks. The asteroids grew larger, dark gray stone pitted with craters. Some had atmosphere domes built into their surfaces. Others showed evidence of mining operations. Which one? He asked. Sariva studied the display, then pointed to a larger asteroid on the cluster's edge. That one. There should be a docking beacon if they haven't moved. Jackson swept the area with active sensors. Nothing. He glanced at Sariva. You sure about this? No. But it's where they were supposed to be. He brought them closer. The asteroid's surface was scarred with ancient impacts, but as they circled, he spotted something. A depression too regular to be natural. A hangar bay concealed from casual scans. There, Sariva said. Jackson approached slowly, broadcasting basic approach codes on frequencies Sariva provided. For long seconds, nothing happened. Then lights flickered to life inside the hangar, and massive doors began to iris open. They see us, Sariva said. Her voice carried something Jackson had never heard from her before, hope mixed with fear. He guided the courier through the opening into a pressurized bay carved from solid rock. Other ships sat in cradles, small fighters, transports, all bearing the same red and black color scheme as Sariva's armor. As soon as they cleared the threshold, the doors sealed behind them. Figures appeared on the hangar floor. Aliens like Sariva, red skin, black horns, armor that seemed grown rather than manufactured. They carried weapons held at ready positions. They're not sure about us, Jackson said. They're not sure about me either. It's been years since anyone left and came back. He set the courier down. The engines wound down, and sudden silence filled the cockpit. Sariva stood, but didn't move toward the hatch. What if they don't accept me back? She asked quietly. Jackson stood and took her hand. Then we leave and figure something else out. Together. She squeezed his fingers, then nodded. They moved to the hatch and descended the ramp side by side. The figures approached cautiously. The leader was female, older than Sariva, with horns that curved back further and more scars than Jackson could count. She stopped 3 meters away, studying Sariva. Sariva, she said, is that truly you? Yes, Commander Talif. I've returned. Talif's eyes moved to Jackson, assessing him with professional interest. And you brought a human. He saved my life. Multiple times. He deserves sanctuary here. Does he know what we are? Yes, and he understands. His people hide the same truth. Talif's expression shifted, surprise flickering across her features. Earth is a death world? Yeah, Jackson said. Has been for a few billion years. We just keep it quiet. A smile crossed Talith's face, the first genuine warmth Jackson had seen since they landed. Then perhaps you do understand. She gestured toward a corridor leading deeper into the asteroid. Come, you both look like you've been through hell. Food, medical attention, and answers. In that order. They followed Talith through passages carved from rock and reinforced with metal. Other colonists paused to stare as they passed, all of them with the same red skin and black horns, all of them warriors who learned to survive by hiding. The colony was larger than Jackson expected. Thousands of people living in interconnected chambers. Hydroponics bays, training facilities, residential quarters, a society built on the principle never being found. Talith led them to a medical center where doctors treated their injuries properly. Burns healed with advanced technology, cuts sealed, exhaustion addressed with stimulants and rest. Later, in a common area that served as both dining hall and meeting space, Talith sat across from them with plates of food that Sariva attacked with enthusiasm. Tell me what happened, Talith said. So they did. The arena, the fights, the escape, the pursuit. All of it laid out while other colonists gathered to listen. Borath will send more, Talith said when they finished. He doesn't know about this place, Sariva said. I never told him anything. Still, if bounty hunters track you here, then we deal with them, another voice said. An older male stepped forward, horns gray with age but shoulders still broad. We've been hiding for generations. Maybe it's time to stop hiding. If Earth has survived as a death world in plain sight, Perhaps we can too. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Talith raised a hand for silence. That's a discussion for the council. For now, Sariva and her companion are under our protection. She looked at Jackson. You're welcome here, human. Any Deathworlder who helps one of ours is kin. The word settled into Jackson's chest with unexpected weight. Kin, family, belonging. The crowd dispersed slowly. Talith arranged quarters for them, a small room carved into rock, simple but private. When they were alone, Sariva sat on the edge of the bed and pulled off her boots. I can't believe we made it, she said. Jackson sat beside her. We made it. She leaned against him, head on his shoulder. What happens now? We rest. We heal. We figure out what comes next. Vorath will come eventually. You brought hope here. They've been hiding so long they forgot there might be another way. She turned to look at him. You think we can change things? Two Deathworld species, both hiding. I think if anyone can change things, it's us. Together. She smiled. A real smile this time. Without the guardedness or the violence. Just joy. Together, she agreed. She kissed him, slow and deep, and they fell back onto the bed. This time there was no urgency, no desperation. Just two people who'd found each other against impossible odds, learning what it meant to be something other than alone. Outside their room, the colony continued its careful existence. Ships came and went on secret business. Warriors trained for threats that might never come. But in that small room, Jackson and Sariva allowed themselves to be seen. Fully, completely. Two predators who'd found their equal and discovered that together they were more than the sum of their violence. The galaxy would come for them eventually. Vorath, or bounty hunters, or someone else who saw profit in Deathworlder blood. When that happened, they'd be ready. But for now, wrapped in each other's arms, in the heart of an asteroid, they allowed themselves to simply be. Two warriors, two worlds, one future they'd build together, whatever it cost.